Week 7, Lesson A. Our goal: analyze and interpret graphs to describe the relationship between quantities in a situation. So in this lesson, we're going to be interpreting the graph of a function and describe what key features represent within the situation. We're going to have a warm-up. This time we're going to do a question that asks you, what do you notice? We're going to be making some connections between graphs, and I have a slideshow for you, then a closure question. An announcement: each week I give you a lesson A, a lesson B, and a cumulative review. And then the week will conclude with a quiz or a test. Please make sure you do everything assigned during the week before the quiz or the test so that you get all the information before you attempt it. Today's warm-up, I would like you to take a look at the graph. What do you notice? I would also like you to take a look at the graph and come up with a question for me. What do you wonder? Some of the things you could have noticed about this graph in your study: parts are linear, even though this isn't one continuous line. Parts are straight lines. It goes up, it goes down. You could have used words like straight or flat. Starts and ends on the bottom of the graph or along the x-axis. And I wonder, what kind of story does this graph go with? We are going to do a connecting representations activity. What is this? We're going to connect graphs to verbal descriptions of real life situations. So in a second, I'm going to show you some words and I'm going to show you some pictures, and we're going to do a matching activity. Why? To think like mathematicians, to use mathematical structure to connect two things that look different. So we're going to be thinking, you're going to make your connection, we'll share and study the connections, and then we will create a representation and reflect on learning. When I ask you to think, what I would like you to do is to ask yourself, how are the graphs different? What are the chunks of each graph? How can they match a story? I would like you to take a look at graph A and graph B. Notice on both graphs that the time is the independent variable and the distance from start is the dependent variable. I'd like you to see if you can match graph A and graph B to one of these stories. Description 1. Chamika is in gym class. She walked straight for 100 meters on the track, then stopped to rest, and then walked back to the start. Description 2. Chamika is in gym class. She ran straight for 100 meters on the track and stopped to rest, and then walked back to the start because she was tired. Description 3. Chamika is in gym class. She ran straight for 100 meters on the track. Then she walked slowly for 100 meters further and then ran the last 100 meters. We are going to go over this question now, and as I go ahead and show you the answer, I want you to mark this up using Kami to take a few notes. So once this is open, go to your tab with this document open. If you hover at the top, it says open with, and we're going to annotate with Kami. And that will open the PDF editor and all your markup tools. So once that is open, we're going to be highlighting today. I'm going to match text to parts of the graph so you can see what's going on in each situation. And I was practicing here, and I see that my marks are still on here, so hold on a second. I'm going to shut this off, and I'm just going to delete this really quick. There, sorry about that. So, description 1. Chamika is in gym class. She walked straight for 100 meters on the track and stopped to rest, and then walked back to the start. So that matches graph A. If you notice in the story, she walks 100 meters, stops, and then walks back. She's walking on both sides of that story. So I need a graph that is equal on both sides of the story. So if I go up to my highlighter, and the text highlighter is the first choice, I'm going to choose yellow. I'm going to go over to and highlight straight for 100 meters because I'm going to show you that part on the graph next. So I'm going to highlight straight for 100 meters. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to check box highlighter because I can't highlight up here in the picture. It won't let me. It will only let you use a highlighter on text. So I'm going to go up here and I'm still on yellow. I'm going to choose the box highlighter and I'm going to draw a box around the part of the graph that matches the story straight for 100 meters. The next part of the story is that she stopped to rest. So I'm going to go back in and pick up my highlighter. I'm going to go to green this time. And in green, I'm going to highlight that she stopped to rest. Now I'm going to put a box around the part of the story in the graph where she stops to rest. So I'm going to draw a box around this flat part. Why is that the resting part? Well, as time goes on, her distance from start isn't changing. Okay, this distance stays the same. It's not going up or down as time is passing. So she's standing still. Finally, I'm going to go back in and pick up my highlighter. I'm going to go to pink this time. And in my story, she walks back to the start. So if you notice on the graph, this says distance from start. So I need her to go back to where she began. And I'm going to draw a box around that in pink. Over here, this is the part of the story where she walks back to the start. So in description 2, Chamika's in gym and she runs. She's going much faster than walking. So her distance gets further as time is very short. So you'll notice in graph B, it's very steep right here. Chamika's in gym class. She ran straight for 100 meters on the track and then stopped to rest and then walked back to the start because she was tired. So now I need a graph where the beginning is fast and the end is slow. So that's why graph B matches description 2, and she still pauses in the middle. So let's go ahead and highlight again. This time I'm going to highlight the part of the story where she runs. So I'm going to go down in here to my colors, and I'm going to choose blue this time. She ran for 100 meters. It's going to be in blue, and I'm going to draw a box around that part of the graph. This is where she runs really fast. Chamika has a lot of energy this morning. Now I need her to stop and rest, so I'm going to go in, pick up my highlighter again, and I'm choosing different colors so it doesn't match the last story. This time I'm going to pick purple, one of my favorites, and she stops to rest. And I'm going to draw a box around that part of the story up here at the top. Time is passing, and her distance isn't getting greater, or she's not walking back from the start. Finally, I need her to walk back to where she begins. So I'm going to highlight that part of the story. This time I'm going to go in and maybe I will use, what haven't I used yet? I'm going to use this kind of weird brown color. So she walks back to the start. So just try to use, oh, that did not work. Let's undo that. I have an undo button at the top. So I need a color here. I guess I put the color in here, so I gotta select it here. I guess when you go in your palette, it puts it on your plate here, so you go back in there. Maybe. I hope I'm looking at that right. I'm new to this. She walks back to the start. I have the good color this time. That's a different color yellow now. So I'm going to highlight walking back to the start in my document, my graph. So I'm going to draw a box around that. In description 1 and description 2 match graph A and B. Fortunately, description 3 did not match either of the graphs. She ran 100 meters on the track, then she walked slowly. So you have a shift in the graph, in the speed. And then she ran again the last 100 meters. Nowhere in that story does she pause and rest. So both our graphs show a pause. So that is definitely a way that you can pick them out. Here is your exit ticket. Can you make up a story that might match this graph?